Welcome to another edition of The Greater Work, the audio outreach of Christ Worker Ministries. Listen in as experienced employee and minister, Sean Gibson brings biblical insights to help you worship God both in and with your labor. Now, let's get to work. In this episode, we're going to discuss prayerfully considering a brand new career path. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "In everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, and sometimes the season for your career field is over." Changing a career is very normal, and most of God's most significant people have gone through it to some degree. Jesus went from being a carpenter and a foreman to being not only the Messiah, but also a shepherd and a teacher. David went through it when he's transferred from being a shepherd to a giant killer, then a mercenary, and then a king. Abraham, he had a family business of making idols. Then later on, he became a cattleman. All the disciples, they all had established careers to some degree. But when Jesus came on the scene, they stopped what they were doing and they became a disciple. Now, when we start talking about reasons why it may be a good time for you to consider a career move, I want to present 10 of the best reasons why it may be time for you to look at moving into a new career field. We're going to go in reverse order here, but number 10, you're out of a job and the field that you've been working in is dying. Number 9, the field that you are in is not what you'd imagined it to be. I've met so many people that started off as a teacher, and then as the years progressed, they realized that their dreams of helping kids achieve academic success really was not going to happen. And that's unfortunate. And then those people needed to find another career path. That happens. Number 8, you've been dreaming of being your own boss and starting a business. Not everyone's cut out to be an employee. Some people are meant to be business people and start their own business, and it may be that time for you. Number 7, you've been thinking about leaving behind a legacy. Are you tired of doing the day-to-day work and you want to do something that you feel counts for all of eternity? If you've been called into, let's say, ministry, maybe it's time that you begin doing what it takes to pursue that calling, that vocation. That's very important. Whatever it is, it needs to be something that you feel is going to be a legacy. Number 6, your career is no longer aligned with your values. You may have started off in a career and come to the Lord halfway through it, and some of the activities that you're engaged in with that particular field, they just don't line up with Spirit-led living. And they definitely don't resemble Christ. If you're in that position, it's definitely time to look for a brand new career field. Number 5, playing the corporate games and running the rat race, it's run its course. Every field has its own set of hoops to jump through, but there comes a point where you're just tired of jumping. And when that happens, it's going to reflect in your productivity. That's never good. And that's a great sign that you need to consider looking for a new career. Number 4, look, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand if you're not using your God-given skills, gifts, and talents, you're not doing what he's wanting you to do. Period. End of discussion. Even when Joseph was in jail, he was still able to use his administrative gifts, even in that crummy setting. Find out what it is that you have been called to do, skill and talent-wise, and do it. Number 3, it begins affecting your relationships negatively. When your career begins messing up your relationship with God to the point where you're no longer reading the Word, no longer praying, even going to church, that's a problem. It can also turn into a problem with your spouse. Look, if you get home at the end of a hard day and you got nothing in the tank to love your spouse, to communicate, to talk with them the way that they deserve, that's going to lead to some serious problems. You can pretty much count on romance going out the window at that point. It can also affect your relationships with your kids. It could mean that when they come to you and ask for help with their homework, that you snap at them, as opposed to being loving and helping them through that little problem that they're trying to work through. If that's you, not only has your career become toxic, but so have you. Your health is in decline. At night, if you can't sleep, if you're stressed out, you have high blood pressure, and if you're on medicine for anything that you feel is being caused by your work stress, it's a good time to consider getting out of that career path. I mean it. We only get one of you, and you're needed. But really the most important reason, the number one reason, is this. The Spirit of God is guiding you to move on. God has a way of moving you from where you once were to where you're going to be going. It's not always overnight, but here's the truth. Let God be the one to guide you and to move you on in His time. Now, if you have discerned a season of career change is imminent, or at least in the near future and on the horizon, these are some great questions that you should ask God and yourself about what your next career should be. Number one, what do you believe God has equipped you to do? What skills, what traits, what talents? What is it that God has put in you that makes you unique? And what is it about those skills that God can use in another career path? Next question. What have you noticed that you are skilled at? What have others said that you're skilled at? That's something to strongly consider. And if you're going through this process in your head, get some other people's opinions. Ask what their thoughts are. Be very blunt with them and say, look, I'm looking at changing career paths. What are your thoughts? What would be some other things that you think I would want to consider? Next question. What do you dream about doing? What job or what career runs through your mind while you're in your commute to and from work and also while you're sitting at your desk? Look, I've been there. I've been in situations where I knew what I was doing was not what I was going to be doing long term. When you're in that position, ask yourself, what would you like to see in a career in this next stage of your life? Now, this next question I'm going to ask, it's a great question. I'm going to ask the dumb version of it first. The dumb version is, if you knew that you would not fail, what would you do? If you go into any career thinking that you're not going to fail or that you couldn't mess up, that's too fragile. That's just false expectations. Forget that. A better question to ask is this. If you did fail, what would you be willing to get back up and do again? I think that's a better question. It's a lot healthier and it sets a better expectation for yourself. Because really, chances are, when you first start out, you are going to hit some bumps in the road. And you have to stay the course regardless of the initial setbacks and challenges. That's normal and that's okay. Now, if you need a new job or if you think it is time for a career change, we want to pray for you. Email me at christworker.sean, SEAN, @gmail.com and let us know what you are going through. And we will agree with you in prayer that your next job will allow you to both worship God and allow you to worship Him with the work of your hands. Thanks for listening to The Greater Work, a Christ Worker Ministries podcast. The Greater Work is supported by hardworking listeners just like you. To learn more about Christ Worker Ministries and how you can become part of our growing outreach, visit christworker.org.